People know that at 68 and overweight, you can still dance. I've been doing this for 18 years, folks. I started when I was 50 years old, so as well as take these young folks into our northern communities to bring hope to the kids in the communities, we also bring hope to, I was 250 pounds about 3 months ago, and I've lost 30 pounds. I went to Mexico. I was there for 3 months, and all I did was eat and drink. No alcohol, of course. All I did was eat and drink. I came back. I couldn't have danced. But anyway, I'm going to do 3 changes of the Red River Jig for you, folks. Yep, to the change. To the chorus. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 6. This next one's called Around the Horn. Hey! This is called My Exit Step. Hey! Thank you. Please welcome the Asham Stompers to the stage for Patrick's Promenade. I guess if we can't find that first change, we'll have to do 2 second changes. Oh my goodness. Let's see, I think everybody wants to hear you. Oh, just kidding. Okay, folks, Patrick's Promenade. Patrick's Promenade, folks. is a second change, folks, called Patrick's Promenade. Next up, we got all our young ladies coming up here, but while they're getting a little bit of a breather, again, I'll tell you, our mission is to help recapture and preserve the history of the Métis people through the dancing of the Red River Jig, but our purpose is to take these young folks into our northern communities. We just got back from Chisasibi, Quebec, and on the way back we did Constant Lake First Nations, and we do about 100 performances a year, and I would say 30 or 40 of them at least are in the remote areas where our kids are living in poverty, and they're living with a lack of self-esteem. Our suicide rates are 10 to 11 times that of the general public, and also our jails are 60 to 70% full of our Indigenous Aboriginal kids. So we take these kids into the community to show that there is hope. We have no solutions. We just want to bring awareness to the fact that most of our kids, or a lot of our kids, are living in poverty and they're lacking self-esteem. And we think they're lacking self-esteem because in 1947, the law changed and Aboriginal people were allowed to own private property. Up till that point, you couldn't own private property. Two of my sisters married First Nations, and it was a shameful day in our house. And my other sister married a Ukrainian, and we partied for 3 days. But I thought my dad was prejudiced, but he was such a kind, wonderful man. I knew he wasn't, and it wasn't until I got more educated that I realized that he couldn't admit he was Aboriginal or Indian in those days. He couldn't admit he was Indian, or he might have lost his kids. He was already 47 and owned private property, or he was already owned private property and had 4 kids. And also in 1951, again, the law changed and Aboriginal people were allowed off the reserve without a permit. And who knew how to fill out a permit in those days? My dad couldn't read or write, for example. Again, in 1953, if you can get this one, Indigenous people were allowed into public parks. My God, you could be walking by a public park with your little 5-year-old, them asked to go and play with the other little kids, you'd have to say, no, I'm sorry, we're Indian. And in 1957, allowed to carry currency, and as most of you know, 1963, we were made citizens of our own country and allowed to vote. So we take these kids in to try to bring hope to the kids in the community, to show them that there is hope. We can take something right out of the community. Most of our communities do fiddle and jig, and that's why we so appreciate the opportunity to come to your community and show your kids that we've been to the Olympics, we've been to Shetland, Scotland, we've been to Mexico. We just got back from Chisasibi, Quebec, and I mentioned on the way back we did Constant First Nations. Tomorrow or next week we're on our way to Natalie and McMaster and Danelle Leahy's festival in near Peterborough, Ontario. So anyway, folks, we so appreciate having you here and being here, and thank you for the opportunity to be here and share this with you guys, but also with your youth. Thank you. And here's our wonderful young ladies with their 5 changes of their Red River Jig. more Stompers, folks. And we're going to get my friend Dallas up there to do 3 changes of the Red River Jig, and then we're going to bring up the Poplar River Boys one more time, and then we're going to do our breakdown. Dallas Gershane from Sagging's Finest, Sagging's First Nations. And he is he's won our youth championship a couple times, or intermediate, I'm not sure which, but he's a championship jigger as well. And these young gentlemen, folks, are from Poplar River, as I mentioned. That's also a flying community. And they went to school there till grade 8, and then they came to Winnipeg to finish their education, their high school education. So they're going to school in Winnipeg for a few years, and not sure what's going to happen when they're done, but we're hoping they stick around and continue to dance with the Asham Stompers, because they've been a great asset to our group. That Rasputin they just did by Boney M, we gave them that tune October last year, and they worked on the routine themselves and did it all themselves. So thank you again so much for having us. We're going to do our last dance of the evening here shortly, but the last dance, don't run away, the last dance does last 10 minutes. Thank you so much, folks. Again, we're going to welcome these Asham Stompers back to the stage here for a breakdown. And in the early days, again, in the early 1800s, when these Métis people did this dance, the fur traders would come back year after year because the Scotch and the Irish and the French and the English, they all liked these wild parties that the Métis people threw, and it wasn't unusual in those days to wear out a pair of moccasins in one evening. Now we got these wonderful Asham shoes that never wear out. No, I'm just kidding. I'm Arnold Asham, and I own Asham Curling Supplies. But anyway, it wasn't unusual to wear out a pair of moccasins in one evening, with new dancers taking the place of exhausted dancers every few minutes. So here's the Asham Stompers with the breakdown, folks. also from Great River, Manitoba. And Dallas Crochet from Saguen's Finest. Eva Kerbrat from St. Laurent, Manitoba. And Asham from Papa River First Nation. Tyler Campbell from Winnipeg, Manitoba. And Quentin Franklin from Papa River First Nation. Sarah Shuttleworth from Dauphin, Manitoba. And Harlan Mitchell from Papa River First Nation. I'm Arnold Asham. Vince Mulaney on the fiddle. And Bruce Shortman on the organ.